Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by Nate Weitzer. He's on the East Coast, and we are looking at some weird slate here. One game that we have on Monday, but that is preceding a bunch of good games, obviously, on Tuesday with the NBA Cup. So we're looking at some best bets from the Raptors and the Knicks in this video, but we are also bringing you a few futures as we stand here roughly a quarter of the way through the season. We want to take a look at some of the stuff that we can probably get some value on at this point after seeing a few of these games played and maybe being able to see what the trajectory for some of these teams will be. So we'll be talking about that both in the best bets video here and in the play of props episode that we have with some props as well for that Raptors and Knicks game as best we can from these early lines as we record on Sunday night. So definitely want to subscribe to the page, continue to follow along. We will be back obviously with plenty of action on Tuesday in addition, but Nate, let's go ahead and just get right into some best bet talk here for the Raptors, the Knicks, and maybe some future stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely looking at the NBA Cup futures more so than this one game here on Monday. That's why it's a nice opportunity to take the break. And I think, look, it's about even money. It's expected, but the Knicks to make the NBA Cup final here is a really solid bet. Just a really easy path has opened up for them as long as they get past Atlanta here on Wednesday. And they'll have 2 days rest before doing that. Or they'll actually have 1 day rest. It'll be short rest for them relative to everybody else here in the Cup, but not really worried about it. This is an absolute spot that they want to crush the Hawks in. The entire city will be behind them to stick it to Trae Young and company. Pretty good matchup in terms of what Cat can do against this front line. So if they get past them, like we've seen them just like spank the Bucks, spank the Magic with similar stuff on the line in terms of the NBA Cup, and the Magic just lost Franz. So like there's no offense for that Orlando team. Not at all worried about that. So we're probably looking at a matchup with Giannis if they're able to get past the Hawks. And his last 4 against OG Anunoby he's been human. 22 points per game. He's been a minus 42, and the Bucks have lost the last 3 to with the Knicks, one with the Raptors. So and then this Knicks team, like, kind of looking at a buy low spot still, considering like the starting 5, everyone was poking holes in what they weren't doing together and what they weren't doing on both sides of the ball, but they're really starting to click. I mean, with that West Coast road trip, couple really impressive performances during that. And now they've been back home, just absolutely handling business. And as we know now, averaging the most points per game ever by a starting 5, 97.5. So they are definitely on the same page and clicking. They're getting Precious Achiuwa back to give a little bit of depth, but this is the type of environment where we've seen Tom Thibodeau's approach really work. That being like a short playoff type thing, especially like a one and done where you're like, who are you going to trust? The guy who's going to put his players out there to battle to the death. Like, I definitely, I'm going to trust Tibbs there more than anyone else in this bracket. On the East, do I like them to beat the Rockets, Mavs, or Thunder coming out of the West? Not really. Maybe you could put a little bit on them to actually win the Cup, but I think you might as well sprinkle, like plus 2,000 on DK. I think is Karl Anthony Towns to be the NBA Cup MVP. Like, that's a better bet than just the Knicks to win this thing, because they're going to need more than just Brunson if they were able to get past one of those West teams.
Yeah, I mean, Tibbs is a psychopath. They were beating the Hornets by like 27, and he didn't take his starters out till there was like a minute and a half left in the game. So you're going to get a lot of that stuff for the starters. But yeah, I think as far as the East is concerned, like it's not the easiest path by any means, but for the Knicks, yeah, this should be one that they should get through now that they're like clearly the best team that's left. I suppose obviously once you match up with the Bucks, but I'm honestly, not that scared. So I'm going to actually just take a bet from this game because I like the Knicks minus 5.5. I like the way that they're playing. I can understand that they're actually not as good on the road. So maybe you want to take that into consideration. They're not covering quite as well on the road either. So, this game being obviously away from the Garden, where they only have a plus 1.2 margin of victory on the season as opposed to plus 12 when they're at home. So I get that. But this Raptors team, while it's had some nice like surprise moments against maybe some teams that aren't even that good, a la the the Lakers, when they had some success against them, and we're seeing what's going on with them as they struggle to basically hang with Portland right now as we're recording this on a Sunday night. But what I like from what I've seen from the Knicks is playing fast, and I mean if the Raptors are going to try to do that with them, which they are, and play that pace and space to a degree, then I'm fine with it. Now, Cat is questionable. Otherwise, I'd probably just be fine with the over at like 231.5. But the Knicks are putting it together on defense in the last 5 games, especially. And it's been against poo-poo offenses, I will admit that. But I'm not really ready to count Toronto's offense as anything but that. And I think they're probably on par with the Charlottes and the Magic when they had Franz, that we're seeing the Knicks really still handle on defense pretty well. They're playing at a slow pace, but they've in their last 5 games, they've got the second best net rating in the league. They're 4th in points off turnovers. Toronto's allowing the 3rd most of those. They're 8th in transition points. Toronto is allowing the 5th most of those. And the 3-point line is probably what we're going to see be a major problem for the Raptors, as they're in a bottom 3-point defense. And the Knicks have been relying on the 3 pretty much all season, but they've also been killing it in the last 5 games with the 7th most made and the second highest 3-point percentage for them. So yeah, if Cat's out, I mean, this will probably drop further than 5.5. To be honest, we'll probably get closer to 4.5, and anything under 5 is wonderful. But I'm still going to take this at 5.5 now with him out, and not necessarily have to wait for it. If he's announced in, it could also go back up a point.
Yeah, I mean, it's fair. Like most teams, you would say it's a look ahead spot, and you want to fade them. But like you're saying, not with Tibbs, not with Josh Hart out there. He has literally no off switch. Like they're going to be flying up and down the floor. This Raptors team we just saw, get smacked at home, and then put up a fight in the next game against the Mavs. But yeah, not really gonna back them. So I think if there is an angle here, it's the Knicks to try to handle business before they get to the cup here. Season long bet for me. Looking at a couple different angles with the unders, and I think the best one here is still the Lakers under 44.5, although that is down from where it was at to open the season. I think we can still be down on this Lakers team, assuming they don't make some sort of huge swing in terms of a trade. But I mean, is this LeBron James last year? Like maybe second to last? Like, are they really going to continue to mortgage the future? I think they still they can't trade anything for like 7 years down the line, basically anything of value in terms of their draft picks. So like, who's really running to offer them something? And are they going to get a piece that really shores up this defense, which has just been abysmal? And then you're just really skating on thin ice when how much you're depending on LeBron and AD, who were relatively healthy last season. They were able to get to 47 wins, and we're only talking about a slight margin of error compared to that right now with this number. Like, if they're not healthy, and if LeBron is just a year older, is not able to be Superman. I mean, he was Superman on Friday, and they still lost because they gave up 134, right? So I mean, and if you look at the luck ratings, which are brought, from teamrankings.com, great schedule adjustment, and sort of advanced data there on that site. They're 4th in luck rating so far, but they're still only 12-11. They're number 1 in home court advantage in terms of how often they've been able to play at home with rest advantage, and they're still 12-11, excuse me. And it's because of that defense. 4th worst opponent field goal percentage at the rim when you have Anthony Davis on your team, and within 5 to 10 feet, and literally the worst 3-point defense right now in terms of opponent shooting percentage. That's not really like room for regression. That's just like you're just flat out bad. We know the perimeter defense is just awful. Slow foot speed all over the place. So I don't see them like completely pulling out of this. Maybe they'll be in the play-in, but like I don't think that in the Western Conference, you're not going to be up at 46 wins too easily.
No, I mean, how many easy games are there when you play the Western Conference teams as often as you do? Not to mention in their own division, which is actually like I'm not going to actually even say it's down because I think it's probably right about where we expected it to be. Maybe some teams are a little bit worse, some teams a little bit better, but I would say the Dubs and the Clippers. I mean, that's never going to be an easy win this season for the Lakers. Not to mention, obviously, the Kings and the Suns. So yeah, I mean, just a bunch more games against those teams. To your point, there's just no easy games here, man, and they don't have the structure outside of LeBron doing inhuman things to be able to do this. And how often can he do that when he's going to be sitting a lot of these back to backs and games where he goes for 38 minutes to try to pull them through like they did last game and still couldn't get that W against Memphis. So I'm going to just go back to the cup real quick and just be like, look, this is to me a wrong number. Maybe I'm higher on Dallas than most people, but I'm taking them at plus 900 to win the whole thing. That number to me was just a little bit crazy. And I think it's basically predicated on the fact that they're playing the Thunder in the first quarterfinal game. And so you're like, okay, well, if they have to go through the Thunder, they're not as likely to win that game right off the bat. Let's just get them out of here already. Well, they win that game. And then, I mean, I would say that they're the best team left in the West. And I mean, right now they're the second best team in the West overall. And it just seems like plus 900 is absolutely insane when you have the odds for teams that I would consider worse than them in the West getting better odds. And like I said, okay, the Thunder are the hardest game. They were going to have to play the Thunder to get there. If they played them this game, they played them in the semis of the Cup, doesn't matter. So we look at the way that they played against the Thunder. That's what this comes down to, right? And obviously we know what happened in the playoffs last year, and that's going to be basically the atmosphere of this game. Not to mention that already this season they had a nice 2-point win against them as well on the road, right? And we saw that game kind of come down to the wire, and missing Luka, by the way, in that one as well. So like now you have Luka, he's healthy. That was kind of one thing I was looking at, is they're actually 5-1 without him. They're 11-7 with him. We know he's a slow starter, but I don't think he's going to come in and disrupt things, especially with the found money that Quentin Grimes is only going to be better with him. We've seen him step up in the last few games, but you put him in the corner with Luka and give him that confidence that, off of the last few games, like I think they'll be good to go against the Thunder. And I'm basically taking them plus 900 to beat the Thunder. And then after that, they're going to be favored in pretty much every game, I would imagine.
Yeah, same wavelength, my man. Like, yeah. I'm looking at this. I mean, I'll just go right to the player props that we'll get to in a minute. But yeah, Luka for MVP is plus 1,200 for MVP of the NBA Cup here. So I mean, that's a DK. It's actually less than that at FanDuel. So you can it's less than this plus 900 price. So you can shop around, but you could find hella value. So I just sprinkled a little bit on that at DK with the exact same logic. Like, look, if they get past OKC, like I really like my chances here. I think this is like a perfect spot in the season for Dallas to be entering this in terms of like Luka's slow starter, but he got that kind of like reset with the wrist, a whole week off, and now he looks like the best player right up there with Jokic. Like he's just absolutely smoking people in these 4 games. Mavs won 11 of 12. They come in red hot, thinking they can beat anybody, knowing they just beat OKC in the regular season without him, knowing they beat him in the playoffs when he was cold that entire series. So I like their chances to cover in that game at least. And it definitely, if they get the win, then like look out, like here's the momentum.
Yep, 100%. So that's all the time we have for you in our special part best bets for this game with Toronto, New York, and a little bit of the futures that we have as well for you. So make sure to subscribe to that page. Going to be bringing you some player props and some player futures stuff for you guys in that other one. So subscribe, check it out, and until we see you next, happy betting.